Harper Audio presents The Lady Most Likely by Julia Quinn, Eloisa James, and Connie Brockway. Read by Rosalyn Landor. Copyright 2011 by Julie Cottler-Pottinger, Eloisa James, Connie Brockway. Production copyright 2011 by HarperCollins Publishers. Chapter 1. August the 20th, 1817. The London townhouse of the Marquis of Finchley, 14 Cavendish Square. After years of inducing giggles, squawks, and outright bellows of laughter, Hugh Theodore Dunn, Earl of Briarly, understood perfectly well that an older brother exists primarily for the amusement of his younger sisters. After all, his parents had endowed him with 4 such sisters. They had the heir, they needed a spare. All they had managed to produce were girls who turned poking fun at their brother into an art form. "A list?" his older sister Caroline was saying, practically hooting between words. She was laughing so hard.
"Georgie, did you hear what Hugh just said?"
Perhaps he shouldn't have issued his demand in front of his sister's best friend, since Lady Georgina Sorrell was practically convulsed with laughter. "What's so damned funny about it?" he demanded, starting to feel irritated. "It's not as if you haven't warned me 1,000 times that I have to get married, unless I want Slinky Simon to inherit my title. Here I am, bending over to put my head in the parson's noose, and you're falling all over yourself because it's so hilarious."
"I do think you should get married," Caroline replied. "I'm sure I have said so 1,000 times. But now that you've finally decided to do it, you want me to pick you a wife." Laughter bubbled out of her again. "You want me to make you a list?" "I'm sorry," Georgina said, gasping a little. "I certainly don't mean to poke fun. I should allow the 2 of you to speak in private. I'll leave." Hugh couldn't help grinning as giggles burst from behind her fingers. He'd always liked Georgie, even back when she was in pinafores, and she didn't smile enough these days. "Be serious," he commanded the 2 of them. "I don't have the time for fiddling around in a ballroom and doing this sort of thing myself. You're always running around those places. You know the cattle. Just point out a woman with good bloodlines and good teeth." "He's in the market for a Hereford," Georgina said to Caroline. "Not a cow," Caroline said. "A horse. You know Hugh. The only thing he thinks about is horseflesh day and night."
"I'm sitting right here in front of you," Hugh pointed out. "Scoff all you like, but I'm still waiting for a list."
"Hugh," Caroline said.
He raised an eyebrow.
"You're serious?"
It was a mystery to him why his sister would think he wasn't serious. "I don't have time for wife-hunting," he pointed out. "I'm breaking in a new stallion, Caro. He's a—"
"Wait a minute," Georgina broke in. "What happened to make you decide to marry?"
All the laughter was gone from her voice, as if it had never existed.
"What happened is that he's finally growing up," Caroline said blithely. "And at 28 it isn't a moment too soon."
Georgina waved her hand impatiently.
"Something brought him here, Caro."
She turned to Hugh. She had a delicate jaw, but damned if it didn't take on a bulldogish look.
"What happened?"
Hugh stared at her. He'd known Georgina since she was 5 years old. Their mothers were close friends, so they spent their summers together. Not that he'd seen her much in the past 5 years. In fact, he hadn't had a proper conversation with her since her husband's funeral, and that was, 2 years ago?
"Hugh?"
Caroline asked, the mockery gone from her voice as well. "There's no need to make a production of it," he said, wondering exactly when Georgina's eyes had grown so grave. She had spent her childhood falling about laughing, yet now she was so clearly a matron. A widow, even though she couldn't be older than 25, since she was the same age as Caroline. She was sitting bolt upright, her eyes focused on his. "Richelieu threw me," he admitted. Caroline gasped.
"But you get thrown all the time."
The corner of his mouth twitched. "It goes with the territory. You can't break in a horse."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?